Hello and welcome to a new video. Today I'm bringing you my January read and wrap up, and whilst it is not a bad start to the year, it is not the start I would have liked. And this isn't me being hard on myself, and it kind of is, but like I wanted to start the year off with a bang and do have a really good month for the first month, and that didn't happen. So I read 10 books, which I know is a pretty good number, but for me, it's not. So feel free to comment saying, no, 10 books is really good, because I know, but it's not going to change my mind. So yeah. I did DNF one book. I'm just going to really quickly talk about this. It was Fix Her Up by Tessa Bailey. I am so annoyed that I didn't like this. But I'm more annoyed at how cringy it was. I can deal with cringy romances, because a lot of romances do have cringy moments. This was just too much. There was too many instances of him calling her baby girl, and it was just no. Let me get my list. I made a list. There was a comment about clothes, and it made it seem as though because she has always grown up getting hand-me-downs and second-hand clothes, and that's been her style when she goes and gets new clothes, and it's literally the whole you do not need to spend money, loads and loads of money on brand new clothes just to feel pretty. And that was the way it was coming across, that the only reason she finally felt pretty was because she had bought some brand new clothes, and made a point of saying about how she'd used her credit card for it as well, and that is not, no. I know I am not the best with money. I do treat myself a lot, but I treat myself to just material objects that make me happy. Where clothes are concerned, I don't care where I buy clothes from. I will get the cheapest clothes as long as they do the job. I don't care. And I've had many dresses and just tops and things over the years from secondhand shops and Primark that have made me feel pretty. You don't need to spend a lot of money. Anyway, that's a rant. That's a whole thing. And then there was the whole thing where he finds out she's a virgin, and he gets all possessive and gross, and I'm just no. And then I didn't even get to a full smut scene, and I was cringing so much that I made a face on public transport and got a weird look off someone. So yeah, I DNF'd this. 38% in. To be fair, 38% was 145 pages, so that was a good amount of pages. But of the 10 books I read and the one book I DNF'd, I read a total of 4,976 words, which is a lot of words, don't get me wrong. It's just not my best. Usually I'm over the 5,000 mark. I was close to it. And I spent 43.5 hours listening. It's a lot of listening. And my star ratings, I had 1 2-star, 1 3-star, 1 4-star, and 7 5-stars. Overall, it was a good month, but you're about to see my most disappointing book of the year, because I'm going to start with that. It technically was not the first book I finished, because I deliberately held off on finishing this book until I'd finished my other book, because I didn't want my first book to be a 2-star. But the first book I started was Rule of Wolves by Leigh Bardugo, and it was a 2-star. I've talked about this a lot. It was disappointing. It felt like it was pandering. There was unnecessary cameos, and it just felt really forced. It's supposed to be Nikolai's duology, and there are more Nina and Zoya chapters than Nikolai. I feel like this was more Nina's duology, which, whilst Nina is my least favourite character, at least if this was marketed as Nina's duology, I would have been okay with that. Because, the person whose duology it is should have the most chapters and the most relevant storyline. And also there was a whole thing that happens in this that just felt like it was literally, and this might be spoilery, so I'm going to hold my hands up while I say this, so if you don't want spoilers, wait until my hand's down. If you've seen Rise of Skywalker and the whole meme where Poe is somehow Palpatine returned, that's this book. That is this book. So yeah, I didn't like it at all. So yeah, and it's actually, I hated it so much that I've now unhauled, or I'm unhauling all of Leigh Bardugo's books. I'm done. I'm done. But then we have Kingdom of the Feared by Kerry Maniscalco, which was a 5-star. This was such an incredible ending to a trilogy, and I saw some people putting this on their worst books of 2022, which is why I was so scared to read it. But I don't understand why, because this book was incredible. I loved the relationship development. I loved how steamy it got. It's not YA, unlike the first book. And I loved the way the plot went. I'm trying really hard not to spoil anything. It's so hard. That's what she said. But I just overall loved this, and I continue to love Prince Wrath. He is the best. I love him. Yes, I have issues. It's fine. Next up, we have As Good as Dead by Holly Jackson, which was almost my favourite book of January. And it is nothing to do with this book as to why it's not my favourite book of January. If you know, you know. But this was a 5-star. This was quite possibly the most I've ever been on the edge of my seat for a book before. I do get why a lot of people wasn't a fan of this, because it got dark. Like, really, really dark. And honestly, I think that's the reason this got such a high rating from me. Like, this was almost a perfect 5-star. Like, what? I loved Pip's brain. Like, I love Pip's brain in the other 2 books, but in this book, it's just on another level. And Ravi continues to be one of the most adorable little beans ever. And I just absolutely loved the twists and turns in this. Like, I was fully reading this on the train back from Ashes, and I was about this. I literally have gone to the exact chapter. How have I done that? I was this, I don't want to accidentally show you the chapter number, but I was this far through. And I literally was reading it, and I was like, and I had to put the book down and take a break because I was shooketh. So yeah, this was incredible. So good. Next up, we had Fortune Silver into Stars by Richard Kemmerer. I'm so glad I got round to this. This was also a 5-star. I told you this was a very good month for me. This is the first book in the sequel series to The Cursebreakers. Now, I love The Cursebreakers. I know a lot of people don't. I do. It's one of my favourite series. So even though I have like fallen a bit out of love with fantasy, I knew that I needed to read this because it's like a continuation of my favourites. And it didn't disappoint. I absolutely loved the direction this went, and I'm so excited to see where the rest of this series goes, because right now I'm like, I can't. And Tycho is like one of my favourite characters, so the fact that this trilogy follows him is just everything. Next up was The Dance Tree by Kilwyn Millward Hargrave, and this one was a 3-star. Now, I have said a lot of times now, you're probably sick of it, I'm not a fan of Kieran Millward Hargrave in the sense of plot. Like, I don't pick her books up for the plot. I pick them up because her writing is incredible and it just draws me in, and this has a trope that I absolutely hate. So it probably would have got like a high 3 or low 4-star if it weren't for that trope. But it got a pretty low 3-star because of the trope. But overall, the writing was beautiful. Just the way she can tell the story. She can say so much and give us so little plot, but you still want to continue reading. Like, I don't understand. It's magic is what it is. But I overall enjoyed this. I won't read it again, but I will be continuing to read everything Kieran Millward Hargrave releases because I like all of them. Next up was The Island by C.L. Taylor. This was a 4-star. This was such a good book. This is a YA thriller, and this took a turn I wasn't expecting. And I don't know if people are supposed to expect this. Like, in some points it felt very predictable, but then something could happen and it was like, wait, I'm doubting myself. Is this the way it's gonna go? And then bam, it didn't go the way I thought it was gonna go, and I was like, what the hell? It was on the edge of your seat stuff. I probably shouldn't have read it so close to reading As Good as Dead, because I feel like that might have, because it weren't as on the edge of your seat as that might have affected it. I don't know, but overall I really enjoyed this. It was so well written. This is the second thriller by this author I've read, and I have just unhauled 2 of her books, but now I'm like, damn it, kind of wish I'd read them now. But it's fine. It's fine. But yeah, this was a really good book, and I actually highly recommend. Her books are not ones I think I would reread, but there's not many thrillers I would reread, because I feel like the whole point of a thriller is that you're on the edge of your seat, whereas if you know what's happening, you don't get that. But oh well, I really enjoyed this. 4 stars. Next up, we had Lady Midnight by Cassandra Clare. I did it. I did my reread for By the Angel Along. I was cutting it a bit fine, but it's fine. I did it. The live show is tomorrow. Have I written my notes for it? No, I haven't. I tabbed a lot. See, you might think this is a lot of blue for sad and crying, but just wait until I read Queen of Air and Darkness. You are not ready for how much blue that is going to have. This book broke me. There was a few things I actually forgot about, because I think my brain tries to like remove them from my memory because they hurt so much. Like, Mark Blackthorne is an actual cinnamon roll, and I love him. He is adorable, and I just want to wrap them all up in bubble wrap and protect them from the horrible, horrible world of the clave. Next, we have my favourite book of the year. I know it's January, but there is no way anything is going to beat this, because it is Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. This book was perfection. To the point it came this close to beating out Love Hypothesis as my favourite book ever. I was having like an internal meltdown. Like, my brain couldn't function, because I was like, wait, do I love this more? Do I? And then I was like, in my brain, playing out different scenes to try and figure out which one I preferred. Love Hypothesis like scraped by as first. Like, I am shooketh. This book is amazing. I wasn't expecting to get it, which is why As Good as Dead was like my favourite book of the month, and then I got approved for this and I was like, oh no. So yeah, I don't know what to say about this book apart from I loved it so much. I also feel like if you're someone who didn't like Love on the Brain because it is a carbon copy of Love Hypothesis, which it's not, but we'll go with what you're saying. The characters are very different. Not completely different. There are still a few things which like Jack does remind me a little bit of Adam on a few things, but it's because he's the dark and brooding and like pining guy. I love it so much. Ali Hazelwood has a type and she writes that type very well, and I am more than happy. She could rewrite the Love Hypothesis 5 times and just change the names of the characters and I wouldn't care. I'd still love it. But I know not everyone agrees, but I don't care. That's my thoughts, that's my opinions, and I'm sticking to them. But then the next book I read was Love Hypothesis. I had to do my bi-monthly reread. And to be fair, I almost didn't, because I didn't actually put it on my TBR, and I almost didn't read it. But I needed an audiobook, and the last 2 books on my TBR, I couldn't get the audiobooks. So I just went with one that was quick and easy to read and I would enjoy it. And that was my thought process. And then my final book of the month was Chain of Thorns by Cassandra Clare. I finished this at 1:40 a.m. Technically the 1st of February, but it's not the new day until you've slept. So it's still the 31st. It was a 5-star. I will say it just scraped a 5-star because there is a thing in it that happens. And I was like, why have you written this, Cassie? Why? But then she brought it back, and the whole book as a whole was just so incredible. Even if it has ripped my heart out, and like my heart is like broken forever now. Like nothing she can do can heal the wound she has given me. And I can't even say why, because that would be a spoiler. But yeah, I'm not okay. I was sobbing for a solid 20 minutes whilst continuing reading, which I think this is the second most cried at Cassie book for me. No, third. I cry more at Tales. Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy I cry more at. And nothing's going to ever beat Queen of Air and Darkness unless she does something in the Wicked Powers series that I really hope she doesn't, because I'm not ready for that. Anyway. Train of Thorns. But that was my wrap up. Obviously, Love Theoretically was my favourite book of the month, with As Good as Dead as a close second. I think when I do my favourite books of the year, like, I know it's like months away, but when I do it, I will give an honourable mention to As Good as Dead, because it was so close. And if I hadn't have been granted the EARC in January of Love Theoretically, then it would have been my favourite book of January. And I feel like I'm doing it dirty if I don't give it an honourable mention. So it's going to get an honourable mention. But that was all I read in January. I'm hoping I can like bring it back a bit and get back into the groove in February, but we'll see. We'll see. If I can at least read 10 books a month, that's 120 books altogether in the year. I honestly do not think I will hit the 200 books that I have been hitting the last 2 years, but that was just like a additional goal for me. As long as I hit my 80 that's on Goodreads, I am more than happy. Although having 100 is a nice number, but anyway, I stick to 80. 80 is my goal. As long as I hit that, I'm fine, which I'm an eighth of the way there. But yeah, let me know in the comments what your favourite book you read in January was. I hope you liked this video. If you did, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you next time. Bye.